The Sharks are reportedly a name to watch when it comes to acquiring goalie Yaroslav Askarov.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Western Conference Tuesdays on the Locked On NHL channel. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everyday, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today, we're going to be exploring Askarov, and the Sharks reportedly are a name to watch when it comes to Askarov, and going to look into why Askarov wants out, who he is, what he would bring, why it makes sense for the San Jose, and look at what it might cost San Jose. So let's start with the who/why of Askarov. So Yaroslav Askarov, the goalie prospect for the Nashville Predators, reportedly asked for a trade today and said he would not report to the Milwaukee Admirals, Nashville's AHL team, if he was sent there. Why? Okay, we're going to kind of give you the backstory, right? So Askarov, who was a former very, very high pick, 11th pick in the 2020 draft, he's been over here in the United States, right? Kind of playing his game the past couple seasons. Again, a high pick for a goalie, right? You don't see goalies get picked that high very often. But when the Preds this offseason signed UC Saros to an 8-year deal for a lot of money, so Saros was signed for 8 years at $7.4 million for, so he was signed to a big time contract. That basically put Askarov on the you're not gonna be the guy for us, right? Especially for paying UC Saros $7 million for the next 8 seasons, almost $8 million for the next 8 seasons. Askarov is not going to kind of get a chance to be the guy. And when you're the 11th pick in the draft and you've performed the way that you've performed, it makes sense for Askarov, who wants to do the best for, right? He wants to make his big contract at some point, and clearly isn't going to do that with Nashville. And so this is why he's asking for a trade. So let's get to the backstory here or I guess get to know Askarov if you don't know him very well. Askarov this past season playing in the Milwaukee Admirals. So he's 6'3", 183 pounds, turned 22 this June. So again, he's that 2020 draft, same age as Shakir Mukhamadullin. 22-year-old goalie, kind of ready to almost like Dustin Wolf, right? Ready to make that jump and become a full-time NHL goalie. 44 games in the regular season. He had a .239 goals against average, .911 save percentage, had 30 wins and 6 shutouts. Playing in the playoffs, the numbers not that great, to be honest. He played 5 games, .325 goals against average, .882 save percentage with 2 wins and 0 shutouts. Then also did get some NHL games. 2 games, the smallest of small sample sizes here. 147 goals against, 943 save percentage, 2 goals allowed. Expected goals allowed was 3.9, so his goals saved above expected was 1.9 with an 800 high danger save percentage. So overall, very positive numbers. I know the playoffs numbers were there. He lost his kind of starting job to Grosnick as Milwaukee was trying to make a deep playoff run. And there could be plenty of factors. Maybe he was injured, maybe the fatigue, who knows, right? I don't know. I don't cover Milwaukee. There could be plenty of reasons maybe why he fell apart in the playoffs there. But I think, though, if you look at kind of his body of work over the past 2 seasons, he has put up really good numbers in the AHL, in the regular season. So he's had a 911 save percentage the past 2 seasons. Like I said, with his goals saved or his goal GAA, 239 this year, 269 last year, and playing in 48 games last year in the regular season. Like, he's kind of earned that role to potentially jump into the NHL with the way he has performed the past 2 seasons. Was an AHL All-Star this year, and him and Muka Dillon, pretty good friends. Saw them on the ice and off the ice hanging out. So just something to keep in mind there. Digging back into his draft profile, which the first thing I noticed, the way elite prospects has upped their game with their draft profiles compared to even 4 years ago. Just hats off to them with the amount of work that they have done. So reading from his draft profile from a couple of seasons ago, the performance of Sergei Bobrovsky in this postseason. This is the 2020 draft profile, so coming off that bubble season, combined with the massive all-in contract with the Florida Panthers, has understandably reignited the debate about where Russian prospect Askarov should go in the draft. Ideally, a team that sincerely needs a goaltender to boost up their pipeline in the next 2-ish seasons will snag him with the top 10 to 15 picks. He went at pick 11. He's miles ahead of the other goaltenders available in the draft in his development, not to mention his development path, which have seen him already thriving in the pros, make him an easy bet as a goaltender who will be NHL ready sooner rather than later. But make sure he's given room to grow. Something that first-round picks at other positions are afforded with shelter starts could be tricky for a team struggling to provide adequate defense in front of him. I'd still pick him as a top 10 pick, but he'll be interesting to consider nonetheless. Keep that in mind here in a second. The skill set, smart and already remarkably controlled for his age. Askarov has the agility and eye-opening movement you expect to see from a Russian-developed goaltender, all with an added level of control to his game that few his age can boost. His skating is above average, although there's no longer a distinguishing factor to the degree it was 5 or 10 years ago. But what really makes him stand out is the way he utilizes a range of depth management to effectively make the most of his wide stance, fluid movements, and fast feet. He's incredibly reaction speed, and you don't see as many desperation saves as one might expect from a goaltender who has the kind of movement he does. Instead, he does a good job of controlling himself with the blue paint when he needs to, and he's difficult to pull out of position by holding sustained pressure on the team's end of the ice. Occasionally, you'll catch him oversliding, but he's good tracking and recovery mechanics. Then they talk about his area of concern. Askarov's glove hand has been one of his biggest areas of concern, and there's many theories to this. They kind of go into some of the theories of it. Basically, could be with his he kind of relies a lot on his lower half, I guess, is kind of where it was. And he's also such a quick progression from his juniors to VHL to the KHL. They didn't really maybe get as much time to fine tune it, if that makes a bunch of sense. So that's kind of where they go with that. But so Askarov, is a high end goalie prospect. And even looking at goalie prospects right now, most people have him kind of marked at that number 2 goalie prospect behind Jesper Wallstedt, who was in the next year's draft, the 2021 draft. And longtime fans of Locked On Sharks know very high. I was very high on Wallstedt that year. And if the Sharks did not draft Eklund, I was very much in the just screw it and take Wallstedt at number 7 because he's going to be #good. And guess what? Wallstedt is #good, and he is going to be pushing to make NHL starts sooner. Good chunk of NHL starts sooner rather than later. And freaking Minnesota, they just draft good goalies all the time. They just draft and develop good goalies. So, but for Askarov, right, he is watching him a little bit, and seeing his game, and then watched him at the All-Star game and talking to him. Really fun dude, really out there, and sometimes that comes out on the ice where he can give you a little mini heart attack sometimes. I'm not gonna like just watching his game. He can be very out there. Like you see the control and stuff, but every once in a while he just kind of makes that decision where it's just like, I'm gonna go for an adventure. So that's again, Askarov is supremely talented, and we'll talk about kind of why it makes sense for San Jose and all that fun stuff, and kind of my decision on it. But he's very very good, but every once in a while he's going to go for an adventure. So, but overall though, like it's it's something the Sharks really, really, really need to think hard about. So let's get to that. Let's get to why it's going to make sense for San Jose, and then why I think the cost is not going to be what you think it's going to be. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. With the eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right. Before we get into why it makes sense, of course, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. When you're done with this show, make sure you go check out one of the other great shows here at the Locked On Network. Of course, you have the Locked On NHL, which is still pumping out 5 episodes a week. Go check out Seth and I on the Locked On NHL Tuesday, where we talk about all things Western Conference. Plenty of stuff to talk about this week. Or check out one of the great episodes here just in the Bay Area, right? You got Locked On Niners, getting you guys get ready for the new season. Locked On Warriors, Locked On Giants, Locked On A's. Plenty of great stuff here at Locked On, where we cover, again, your team every day. So, why it makes sense? One, the Sharks have a massive, massive, massive hole in their goalie prospects, right? They've thrown resources at it. This year they drafted 2 players in the draft, right? But this is easily the weak spot for the Sharks prospect pool is the goalie. And Askarov would 100% fix it and give you, no doubtedly, you would have the best prospect pool in the NHL. And Askarov would quickly graduate from that. But this would solve a short-term, medium-term, and long-term fix if you think Askarov is going to be the guy that he's projected to be. And I think Askarov is going to be the guy that we project him to be. And that is a franchise caliber goalie, like a guy who can play, we don't see the 65, 70 game type of guys as much, but I think Askarov can be a 50 to 60, almost kind of like the Martin Jones plan of, 50 to 60 55 to 60 games every year. And then you're playing your backup goalie, you have this very clear 1 and 2, where kind of the past couple seasons for the Sharks has been a 1A, 1B, and you're going to see that again this year with Vitek Vanacek and Mackenzie Blackwood. I think Askarov can be maybe not the elite type of top end guys, but can he be a goalie who wins the Stanley Cup? I think he can. I think he's got the skill. I think he's got the pedigree, and I think his style of play, while it can be adventurous at times, I think it's still, again, he's 22, right? He's probably going to have that little adventurous side of him at times, but throughout his entire career. But he's an exciting, energizing goalie that his teammates love to play for, right? He brings he's not your typical goalie, and he brings a lot of energy, and you can just talking to him for a couple minutes, you can see like this is a different dude, right? He's got like the neck tat, like he's just a different dude. And I kind of like that, right? But for San Jose, right, the Sharks have, you kind of missed out on the 2023 draft and the run of goalies, the Jacob Fowlers and all those guys who kind of got picked. Like I said, the Sharks made an effort last year picking 2 goalies. They picked in the 4th round. Pulling it up right now because I forget all the names. Christian Kirch, and then they picked Yaroslav Kortisalov. Sorry, Yaroslav. But they picked 2 goalies right in the draft this year, and who knows what happens with those guys? Those guys are going to have a long development path, and project to be right. Maybe they're good backups. Who knows what happens with those guys? But you're not going to see them sniffing pro hockey, North American pro hockey for a while, right? Especially Kirch, he's coming over to USHL. I think he's going that type of route. Like he's not going to be playing pro hockey in a while. And so I think for the Sharks, where you spent a lot of resources addressing the forward pipeline, right? Especially, and then this year getting Macklin Celebrini, right? Getting Will Smith last year, William Macklin, like Quentin Must. You have a lot of resources there, and you expect to, right? That is the group that has the most players in it, right? You can dress 12 forwards. You should spend a lot of resources there. The defense, they spent some resources there, right? You got Sam Dickinson. You've got Leo Wallenius. You got Luca Cagnoni. You acquired Shakir Mukudulan last season. Like you've got some guys that you're excited about. But then when you get to that goalie prospect, it's kind of like, yikes. What are we going to do here? And I think Askarov would solve probably the biggest question in the Sharks. The Sharks system is, how do you fix this goalie pipeline and what do you do with it? And for Askarov, maybe, yes, he's probably going to, if the Sharks were to trade for him, he's probably going to start the season in the AHL, but he's going to play NHL games this year just because, one, I don't see Mackenzie Blackwood staying healthy. Last season, he missed some games. He's missed games the past couple seasons. You have Vitek Vanacek, who coming off a major injury. He's been relatively healthy his entire career, but, is coming off a major injury. And 2, this team's going to be bad anyway. You're going to want to see these guys. And if Mackenzie Blackwood or Vitek Vanacek are both entering the last years of their contracts, if you trade one of them at the trade deadline, you're going to want to see Askarov playing, especially down the stretch. So, one thing with Askarov, he is entering the last year of his ELC, so he will be an RFA. You're going to control his rights, like he's going to be cost controlled for the next couple seasons. And you look at just north of here, where Calgary gave, Dustin Wolf, who's played a fair amount more games in the NHL. They gave him a 2-year deal at like $900,000. Like it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, and the Sharks have a ton of cap space anyway, so it doesn't matter. Like it's important about just getting good players, and Askarov, I think, is a good player who would complete a big question in the Sharks prospect pool puzzle. Sharks prospect pool puzzle. That's fun to say. So I'm for it. I think if the deal makes sense, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, kind of what makes sense and why it might not be what you think it's going to be to acquire Askarov. But if he, who said he doesn't want to, like he is asking for a trade, so his value is kind of sunk, it should be something that Mike Grier is in on trying to do, because the Sharks need an answer like this, and the Sharks have struggled to draft and develop goalies for years, right? Even Martin Jones was a trade that the Sharks acquired for a late first-round pick, and Martin Jones, I know the image of Martin Jones is always kind of the last 3 years where he turned into a pumpkin, but Martin Jones was a really good goalie before things fell apart for him. And Askarov, who again is turning 22 or just turned 22, he's he's got plenty of runway here to get better and better and better. And I don't think he is a guy where you're going to have to worry about him kind of turning into a pumpkin right away. So, and his timeline really fits, I think, with the Sharks timeline. So let's get to the big question. And that's, what's it going to cost to try to get Askarov? And we'll get to that here in just 1 second. The best way to go when it comes to hire candidates isn't to search for candidates, it's to match. And you can do that with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show can get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Let's go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on it. Heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right. What's this going to cost? So you hear a lot about like picks and prospects and all that stuff. Like, okay, maybe the Sharks trade, they have second round pick. Maybe you trade the Vegas pick. I've heard Quentin Musty thrown out there. So let's look at what Nashville did this summer, right? So Nashville, one of the most aggressive teams this offseason, right? They signed, they signed Steven Stamkos, 34-year-old guy, signed him to a $4-year, $8 million season deal. Jonathan Marchessault signed him. They signed Brady Shea, defenseman, 30 years old. This is one of the most kind of all-in teams there is right now. Like, how do picks and prospects help this team right now? Like, this team is trying to win a Stanley Cup right now. They win, either this year or the next year. Like, this team is trying to win a Stanley Cup right now, and they don't have time to wait for first round picks and prospects to develop, because by the time those guys develop, Stamkos that contract's going to be running out. Like, you signed all these guys to try to win something right now. So I don't think they're in the market for picks and prospects. And maybe I can already hear you say, well, they could just flip them. Going into the 2025 draft, the Nashville's got one of the deepest draft chests right now. They have 2 first-round picks. They have 2 second-round picks, and they have 2 third-round picks. They have all the picks in the world. They can do whatever. Like, they have Tampa's pick, first-round pick this year, and they have their own pick. They also have they have all these, Tampa's second-round pick, and who knows, that's probably going to be a late teens, early 20s type of pick. Like, who knows what with Tampa, and that team might kind of start to be, the end might be coming close for that team. You have Colorado's pick. Again, it's probably going to be a late 3rd round pick there, but still, you have all the assets in the world. It's not like they can go super big game hunting, because they're a team that's not got a ton of cap space right now. Going into this year, they've got about 3.2, so they got about $3 million, $3.1 million. We'll just kind of call it that right now. So, and that's with 11 forwards. They just have a couple RFAs they got to sign here. So, which we'll just say, couple, keep it cheap, and if it's $1 million or whatever. So they've basically got $1 million worth of cap space in forwards, and that'll put them at 13 forwards, and they have 6 defensemen and 2 goalies. So I think what they're going to be looking for is players who can help them win a championship right now. So, and not expensive players is the other thing. So, for the Sharks, right, I'm not like any of the young player like Eklund. I've saw the Eklund, like just trade Eklund. No, Eklund, Celebrini, Smith, of course, like all those guys, I'm not trading. But like you're still going to have to give up something for the Sharks, and you look at what Mike Greer just did, right? You just traded for Cody Ceci in his $3.25 million contract, and you have another defenseman at $3.25 million contract at Mario Ferraro. And while those are a bit pricey, what if you offer up like a Nico Sturm or one, Nico Sturm, who's also in the last year of his deal at $2 million. Again, it's not you can squeeze it in there if you need to. A Mario Ferraro or a Cody Ceci, whichever you pick, right? You pick. Mario Ferraro's got 2 years left on his deal at $3.25 million, and Cody Ceci since in the last year of his deal. We know the Sharks have been willing to trade Mario Ferraro. The Preds right now, again, I think they could use some help. Yes, you have Roman Yossi, you have Brady Shea, you have Alexander Carrier, you have Luke Shen, who's 34, you have Dante Fabro, like Jeremy Lazan. Very good at the top, and I think that bottom, I think if they got like another guy who can maybe take the pressure off Shea and Yossi, and guy who can play penalty kill minutes and just a professional, right? A guy like a Mario Ferraro or Cody Ceci, and I know Cody Ceci. Those guys are more well respected among general managers than they are among like hockey analytics guys and people of my ilk who just kind of idiots who watch the game. I myself very much included in that idiots who watch the game. Like those guys are more respected in the hockey general manager. So maybe those are the two guys you kind of look to package and say like here's two NHL caliber guys who can help you win a championship right now. Nico Sturm playing fourth line minutes on Colorado, great penalty killer, great guy in the locker. Like he is one of those guys, one of those glue guys who can kind of come in and play whatever role you need him to play in the bottom six, right? Mario Ferraro, same thing, right? He's going to block a ton of shots. He's beloved in the locker room. He's going to he can help this team win. And maybe if you're the Sharks, you have to take back a contract, whether, it's Luke Shen or Dante Fabro, who we know the Preds have dangled him before. You take back one of those contracts with Askarov and maybe there's some pick swaps or something like that, whatever you need to do there. But I think this is going to be more player based because the money's got to be close, one thing, and two, like Nashville's trying to win a cup right now, so maybe the players they get help them win the cup right now, and the players that the Sharks get and Askarov, that is helping them win a cup in the future. So I don't think you're going to see like a lot of, again, like that Nashville doesn't need the picks. Maybe it's a young forward like a Bordelot or a Robbins or a guy like a cost control guy who's really close to making the NHL, and can kind of come in and be a cheap forward. And we know Bordelot's dad works for for Nashville. I just don't think it's going to be like first round pick plus prospect, because that's not helping Nashville win a Stanley Cup right now. And that's what Nashville's trying to do. They're trying to win a Stanley Cup right now. They've got plenty of picks to trade off. They need more NHL depth. I think that's where the Sharks can come in, because I think they have a lot of NHL depth type of players. So that's what I think that's where a trade centers around. I'm not going to try to put together a trade, because every time you try to put together a trade, someone's going to call you an idiot, and someone's going to call me an idiot just for mentioning those guys and saying it's not enough for Askarov. But if I'm looking at for the Preds, you have an unhappy guy who's probably going to make a stink about it, right? and you're trying to win a championship right now, and does Askarov help you win a championship this year? Maybe, if UC Saros goes down for a while, but like, I don't think you play that game of, I think you're going with UC Saros and Scott Wedgwood, and who's a very capable backup. I think that's what you're going with, and you're trying to find, how can we find some other guys can help insulate us, especially in the bottom pairings or kind of that middle bottom six. How can you find these guys who can kind of come in and help out and get us make a deep run for a team that wants to win a Stanley Cup and has done a lot of work this offseason to put themselves in position to win a Stanley Cup. So that's my 2 cents for it. I think it's more NHL. I think it's more of an NHL trade, to be honest. And so, and yeah, so that's it. That's the Askarov podcast. So we'll see how long this bad boy takes, if it happens at all. If it doesn't happen, well, it was a fun August episode. So be back tomorrow. You're probably going to get 4 episodes this week. So be back tomorrow. Like I said, my good friend Jay stops by. We talk about Blue Jackets and we talk about the Sharks. Of course, both our teams involved in stuff this week. So, yeah, sorry about that. It's just, yeah. Anyway, make sure you guys follow wherever you get podcasts. Of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That way, one, whenever a new episode comes out. And 2, there's always good stuff on there as well. So follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.